So hello everyone. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us today. And yeah, and I'm happy that there is a great number of signups, and I hope this will be an interesting session for everyone. Please feel free to raise your hands when you have a question. And we are happy to take questions at any time during the webinar. And my name is actually Rahel Demand. I'm the co-founder of EXA Bootcamp, and I'm happy to introduce you today to the workshop. And by the way, I'm always looking to expand my network, so feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you like. Okay, and first, what we would actually like to know is we have these three agenda items for today. The first one, get an overview of the tools you need to create AR apps, understand the major industry use cases for AR apps, and how to make your AR project portfolio to really stand out. And what we would like to know from you, which part is actually the most interesting. So if you could just type in the chat 1, 2, or 3. I mean, I know everything's interesting, but yeah, please just let us know which one is the most interesting for you. That would be super cool from everyone to know. Yeah, I will just give you a few seconds. Would be great if everyone could just type it. Small test. No, that's not true. But yeah, what can we see on the chat? So what is the most answered? Okay, 2, 2, 1, 1, 3. Okay, interesting. Okay, so okay, so I mean, every point seems to be interesting, at least to some of you, so that's great. 1 and 3, okay, and if you have to choose, yeah, okay, 1. Okay, great. Yeah, thanks everyone. That's already a good first impression. Yeah, I mean, just to start, what everyone is probably realizing right now, and what we're also realizing while doing all these online webinars, is that the world has changed through Corona, obviously, and that our working environment will probably not stay the same anymore like it was before Corona, and we will not go back to the earlier times. And yeah, and there are so many offices now, so many businesses now, which have decided that remote work is completely acceptable. And there are so many of the big companies as well, which have decided that all their employees can work from home, at least until 21, until next year. But there's also a number of companies which basically have said that everyone can work from home forever. Like, there will not be any more restrictions. And yeah, that's also, of course, not only for big companies, but also for many small companies. And the question is now, because I mean, there's of course still on-site operations, but these are, yeah, basically really low-level work performed by low-skilled workers. But if the managers are basically sitting at home in their home office, and the workers are actually on-site and in the factories working, how is it actually being managed? And most of this management happens today with yeah, AR remote support applications. And yeah, I just wanted to show you this video because it really shows how many different industry use cases there are for augmented reality remote support. Yeah, as you can see here, of course, like if you want to design things, you can collaborate nicely. Or if you don't know which button to press, of course, someone remotely can tell you which button to press. And yeah, and all big companies today have some kind of AR remote support solution where they can basically show people how to use the equipment they just bought. And it's just much faster how to, yeah, when you want to learn. And yeah, there's really lots of companies which are offering AR remote support services. And what we can see is really that it really offers a huge ROIs, like returns on investment, if you have this kind of AR remote support solution in your company. Yeah, as you can see, like it increases really service profitability. If you're working in service, you probably know that, yeah, if you could just be with the person and explain it one-on-one, it would just be so much easier. And with an AR remote support solution, you actually have that chance. So basically, it also, of course, reduces on-the-job training times. Yeah, once when you have like a first-time fix request, it improves the improvement rates. of course. And yeah, so there's lots of statistics like that, that it really, really increases, yeah, just the decreases the time spent on explaining certain things. Yeah, there's like, of course, lots of studies right now, and what we can also already can see only with this one use case of AI remote support apps, that there's just so many different use cases and services that are impacted by it. And there's, for example, this one study done by PwC, which shows that only in the next 9 years, basically, that there will be, with 3D, virtual, AR, and MR, there will actually be 1.5 trillion US dollars be added to the revenues of the global economy. And it's becoming a huge, really huge market. And there's also, yeah, one study which shows basically that all different types of industries, enterprises are affected, like from cars to cosmetics to footwear to toys to flowers and gifts. Like every shopping area like is impacted. Like it's not e-commerce anymore. It's, let's say, AR commerce nowadays. And yeah, and here you can basically see the revenues that are being done by people, by consumers who are shopping with AR with the help of augmented reality. And yeah, and like we can really see that this is a growing opportunity market by looking at the job openings that are basically in AR VR. So there's Hired.com, which is one of the biggest job platforms in the US, and they did a study from 2018 to 2019. And for AR VR engineers, there's basically a job growth by 1,400%, and just crazy how quickly actually an area and industry is evolving and needing more educated workers. And yeah, and I just want you to show you like a few quotes from very high level people from the biggest, largest companies worldwide. And you can really see that, I mean, of course, all of them are heavily investing into AR and VR. And from these 4, I mean, you can read them right now. But the one I really liked most here is from Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google and Alphabet. And he says the next step will be for the very concept of the device to fade away, which basically means that yeah, basically that you will not have your smartphone in front of your eyes anymore, but when you have these augmented reality glasses, you can basically just see all these digital interfaces like embedded in your environment, and you will not need a phone anymore to interact with anything digital. Yeah, so basically, yeah, let's start and introduce our trainers. Which are also, by the way, our trainers for the real masterclass, for the masterclass, 5 weeks masterclass we are offering starting on 17th of August, where you can basically learn to create this AR remote support solution step by step by yourself. And yeah, there's Shiva Musini, which is both of our trainers are from telecom companies, from T-Systems. Both of them have worked for really large companies also beforehand. And yeah, they will basically teach you a few technical details today. And yeah, maybe let's start with Shiva. Basically from the idea of an AR remote support app, when you have that and when you want to create that, you're going first to the design, then to the development, and then of course to the implementation of the app. And first step is design. Shiva,
yeah.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Thanks, Rahel.
Yeah, what are the tools? Let us know. Let's start with the tools. What kind of tools do you like to use when you basically design for AR remote support apps?
Sure. Of course, there are a variety of tools that people can use if they are working on their passion projects, but these tools are proved to be the very, let's say, fast and rapid tools in enterprise environment, because time is actually very, very important and critical in that situation. So starting from conceptual part and wireframe, both I would say Adobe XD or Figma are used in industry. Both are vector-based user experience design tools for web and mobile applications. I mean, I'm not really sure how many designers are there among the participants, but they probably know this, or even developers. They heard about them. And yeah, they are both design collaboration tools, which make them very powerful candidates in digital industry. They can be used for low fidelity prototypes where the focus is more on the functionality, UX architect rather than visual design, as well as high fidelity prototype where visuals are finalized. The next phase, which is basically the rapid prototyping, and in this case for mobile AR prototyping, we need to switch to another tools because Figma or Adobe are not really capable of showing the 3D elements and the animation and the behavior of those 3D elements within their prototyping tools. So we need to somehow make a switch to AR prototyping tools, which I would recommend the Wireframe, which basically this one has two components: a web-based editor where your design and basically you design your AR prototypes in the web editor, and then a mobile application where you can actually see your design and test it. This app can be used on any ARKit compatible iOS device or ARCore compatible Android device. And yeah, so it's like it's for both mobile platforms. And the other one is Adobe Aero, which is iOS only. And it's a tool that allows, again, designers to build and share immersive experiences in AR. And I would like to mention that no coding skill is required for any of those tools that I mentioned. The next step, which is actually can sometimes be skipped, but highly depends on the project, is more high fidelity design that requires more visual aesthetic into your project and application that you, I mean, in this case, the Adobe InDesign, Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop comes in handy in this project. And I would also like to mention the elephant in the room, which is basically Unity. Well, of course, it's not a must to do the AR design, especially mobile AR design in Unity, but since AR is booming, it's worth having a look into creation of UI, basically 2D UI in Unity. And you also have the luxury of testing your 3D prototypes if you're a designer that is a full stack designer and can fully develop something on Unity. That also makes everything easier for you to test your interaction as well, and simply skip the mobile AR prototyping with Wireframe and Adobe Aero. And normally one tip is that the hiring managers are basically thrilled when a UX designer has some solid knowledge about Unity or any other game engine. So it's not a bad idea to know a little bit of it. In next slide, is just one example of a rapid prototype. Like literally I did it in 3 minutes or maybe 4, just to test some interaction and behavior of 3D objects in space using Adobe Aero. As you see, I have this, due to the use case, I have this motor, and then I make an annotation, and then I get some more information displaying on information in space. So that is a very, I would say, fast way to understand the space and how you want to implement the application later on. On the next slide, I would like to actually narrow down a little bit, because earlier I mentioned Adobe XD or Figma. Here's an example of Adobe XD of how you create the, let's say, core concept and UX architect of your application. And people who are familiar with this is like, you can create a fast prototype and make the animation and really try to make it understandable in early stage for the stakeholders, as well as the developers to understand the architecture of this application. And by architecture, I mean the UX architect of the application. I would say this video, if it could be fast forwarded, if not, next slide. I would like to talk about like going a little bit of through the overview of mobile augmented reality design, which basically in this case is mobile AR is a digital extension of the product design. However, there are factors that needs to be taken into consideration when designing for mobile AR. The medium is still a mobile phone, but as a designer, you should really think outside of the mobile phone screen. So that's very important. So some of those factors that are listed here, I will narrow down more into upcoming slides, are spatial design, visual affordances. So basically if you know Don Norman, he always talks about signifiers, affordances, and feedbacks. And the next point is mobile AR immersive interactions. And the other point is dynamic 3D content type. And next slide. talking about the spatial design is, of course, is a very broad topic, but I would like to pinpoint some of the important scenarios here, which is basically the physical scenario that actually indicates users' usage of space when operating an AR application. UX designers must define the user journey and consider how the interface will react in each physical scenario and what are the limitations for the user in those let's say scenarios, physical scenarios or environment that they are using the application. There are obviously other points involved for environmental design, but let's say clarify with one example what are these physical scenarios and how they actually fit into the concept of your application. AR apps for industrial context differs from a home entertainment AR app. So of course, in industrial context, you really have to think about the ergonomy of the space. If it's dangerous that the user is using a personal physical scenario or should be a private physical scenario. And in order to make it clear what are these scenarios are, I would like to mention from Rob Manson, who is a evangelist from Mixed Reality. And he lists the key examples of AR usage, basically public. It's still a previous slide, sorry. So the public, the user uses the whole body to interact with the software. In personal scenario, user is using a device, for example, a mobile phone, and in intimate, they sitting or standing with minor movements. For example, AR, web AR or web VR can be that scenario. And in private, that people are using a wearable like HoloLens, for example. In next slide, thanks. I would like to talk about the visual affordances, which again, I would like to refer back to the topics that affordances and feedback and the signifier of Dan Norman, the guru of UX design. And so we want to see what are the 3D objects, how they afford interactions in the space. So with the current advanced screen display and lighting technology nowadays, which make it possible for digitally rendered objects to appear naturally in the user's environment, we should really take advantage of that. And also the volumetric UI pattern can complement a 3D mobile AR experience. So try to use as much as possible 3D to make the hedonic model of user experience more exciting. However, it's also important that those interactive components are appealing to the user and the user can get a sense of selection states and functionality behind them. And in addition, it's also important to communicate the planes that the mobile device detects in order to manage the user's expectation for where they can actually place their digital items in the space. Is very important about the spatial awareness. And next slide, I would like to talk about the immersive interactions, especially in mobile AR. In order to achieve interaction, we need to actually focus on some of the interaction mechanism in mobile AR that are basically interactions with objects, information display, and also visual cues or guidance. It's possible to optimize for readability and usability and scale by, let's say, considering ways to use a fixed position or dynamic scaling for digital objects. One example could be that you have a text, and if your camera focuses on those texts, it can actually grows in size as you get further from stability will increase, and that's one way that you can actually make the more immersive experience and interaction into the mobile application. The other slide talks about the dynamic 3D content type. Of course, in traditional UX design and also the new, let's say AR, UX design is always recommended to use animation because animation is always a designer's best friend, and it can be multi-purposed because you can use the animation for onboarding of the user in the beginning of the use of the application. So people are not really familiar, might not be familiar with the application, so animation could really help in that case. And the other part could be that it increases the let's say the connection between the user and the application, because animation always makes feelings, and it's important to make your 3D content dynamic. Then the next slide. Yeah, if I would like to talk a little bit about the design for an enterprise. As Rahel already mentioned, that we work for A-listers names like Telecom as an example. And if I want to say that what was the experience with Telecom, I would say that yeah, creating application, not just for Telecom, but for any other enterprise nowadays is really not that different compared to creating application for consumer products, because in both cases, actually, user becomes the decision maker. Users tend to pick the software that easily switches the cost, and therefore made it more challenging for us as a team, me and Alex as part of the team, in terms of competing with other more and less similar tools in the market. So we always have to be updated about the similar AR remote support tool in the market, because the customer was really aware of what is happening in the market. So that was one challenge. And obviously, I mean, as an enterprise designer, I focus on designing a product that is customizable by the user. So they really didn't really need to get back to us because of the maintenance or because of the like huge support. So in one word, usable and let's say easy to use. However, there were risks that designers really facing when designing for enterprise, because you cannot, it's a big risk to be super innovative with interaction or UI, because normally you're working with very sensitive data and type of user who only cares about, let's say, pragmatics and function rather than having fun with the application. So they just want to get the job done rather than yeah, like getting the exclusive feeling by using the application, like what or these AR filter application are doing, giving this feeling to the users. The other thing I would say, as an enterprise designer, you have to be an excellent researcher as well, to be able to understand different use cases. For instance, if you are designing for a social media platform, which is a consumer product, you yourself are considered to be an end user. Whereas designing an app for a field engineer in a glass fiber factory, you no longer has enough knowledge to build empathy. Therefore, you really need to create the right personas or jobs to be done. And the challenge for us was to create a product that actually can serve the field engineers in a wide range of industries. So, but overall, it is fun. It's definitely not boring being an enterprise designer. It has some challenges, and yeah, that's what I have to say about it.
There was one question we had from Himani. He just said about the private space. Can you give some examples for the private space?
Yeah, so if we get back to the slide about the private space, I mentioned that you're still in the, let's say you're using a VR or AR wearable, like a HoloLens device or Magic Leap or Oculus, for example. So the experience that you have is mostly shared by you. And whereas, for example, in personal use case, like some AR games that are more social games. So it's all about interaction with other users that makes a difference between personal and private scenarios.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
That actually answered your question.
Yeah, let us know, Himani, if that answered your question. Okay, perfect. So yeah, for the next next part, like now after we have designed our AR remote support app, we are going to the development. And yeah, I think everyone has already heard about Apple's AR Kit, of course, Google's AR Core. I mean, both of these basically softwares do enable like, yeah, most of our modern smartphones today, like 1.4 billion devices basically are enabled to run augmented reality apps, and augmented reality mostly is mobile. Yeah, Alex, maybe to introduce you, what else apart from ARKit and AR Core do we basically need to learn when we want to learn to create apps, AR apps ourselves?
Well, thanks, Rahel. Exactly. So an AR app, any AR application, especially AR remote support application, is a complex set of features and SDKs and layers. And there are many ways to do that. Like many technologists have adapted themselves to support AR, VR, and XR in general use cases, including native development or even some JavaScript libraries. But right now, if you want to make your application future-proof and actually make sure that something that you develop right now will be supported on a various range of devices in the near several years, you're definitely going to go for Unity. And it has many advantages, like it's a huge community. It's a very well cared of development engine. And there is a misperception right now that Unity is like a game engine. That's how they started. But right now, they've put a lot of effort to move from that to actually supporting. There are a lot of apps right now that are developed in Unity and that are meant for the industry, for the industrial, augmented reality, and virtual reality use cases, supporting various numbers of head-mounted devices like glasses, AR, VR glasses, and mobile phones. So Unity is the best guess if you want to choose the technology stack for your AR application. Unity uses C# as a development language, and it's actually also a good choice because C# is a multi-purpose object-oriented language supported by Microsoft, and you can do all kinds of stuff in C#, starting from web servers, Windows applications, mobile applications, and Unity developed AR, VR applications. An AR remote support application has several major layers, right? Let's start from the bottom. Well, just at the bottom, there are iOS and Android, and it's just operation systems. And then they come platform-specific components. And these are ARKit for iOS and AR Core for Android. And you need to include them both, and you need to set them up both separately in Unity, so the application is cross-platform. And then on top, you want to have a SLAM abstraction layer. So what is SLAM? Simultaneous localization and mapping. This is actually a general term for all sorts of technologies that let your device understand the environment around you. They vary by complexity, by functionality. And if we're talking about mobile devices, the most well-spread SLAM technologies and platforms are AR Core and ARKit for Android and iOS correspondingly. And what it does, it uses all sorts of sensors and inputs available on the device physically. So the main one is camera, just to get a visual impression of what's happening around. Then it uses definitely an accelerometer to understand the tilt of the device, and then a lot of computing to understand where exactly it stands, like where's the wall, where's the floor, when the user moves his hand with the device, so what has changed, how the environment has changed. Recently, Apple introduced LiDAR. This is a new hardware sensor that they've built in the newest iPad model, and I think you can be pretty sure telling that they are going to build this in their next iPhone devices too. And this actually supports hardware accelerated depth perception. So it's like a laser sensor that understands, or infrared sensor that understands how far the nearest physical object is from you and is capable of creating a spatial map around you. Google was releasing Google Depth API, which is a part of AR Core right now. And also helps you understand your physical environment around you. On top of that, there sits holographic annotations logic. This is what makes remote support applications different from other AR applications. This is the core component that is responsible for setting holographic annotations on surfaces, and you need to have the SLAM layer beneath, because if you set a holographic annotations, you wanna know exactly where the nearest object is, because you don't want your annotation just hang in the air. Exactly. So the major challenge, as said, is spatial mapping. This is a part of SLAM concept. So there is SLAM. It includes various kinds of positional awareness technologies and so on. And spatial mapping is actually the core concept of SLAM technology. And as you can see on the animated backgrounds, this like mesh that's creating on top of the mountain is the spatial mesh. It's called like that. So the device understands how far the physical object is and creates a digital representation of a physical surface that your application can work with. So, I mean, your application doesn't know where the real physical object is, right? It knows like where the spatial mesh is, and you can attach objects to that, annotate this, and do all sorts of stuff that you want with this. And right now, it's made possible relatively recently by both Google's AR Core and Apple's ARKit. Exactly, and this is a small showcase of holographic annotations. So you can see a screenshot and an animated a video that shows you. So you see like this pink overlay on the sofa. This is spatial mesh, and if you set holographic annotations, they are actually attached to the spatial mesh, and you can just go around and they keep persistent. And that's how a remote expert can make himself clear, explaining to a field engineer what to do, which button to press, which part of the machinery to check. And it actually can very effectively replace on-site technical assistance. And if previously it was just a nicer way and a cheaper way of doing things, then in modern complicated times that we have, for a lot of companies, this is the only way to provide remote support for their customers. And yeah, it's hard to overappreciate.
Great. Thank you very much, Alex. So
Thanks for your help.
yeah, I actually wanted to ask you, so how was your experience basically like for you to do this AR Field Advisor?
Oh, right. So there's a lot to tell about this. So first, I'd say it has been challenging. Because you're working with very innovative technologies. Like as you work, the new technologies coming out on the market, and they make several things possible, and you want to integrate them just in the middle of the development. So it's definitely agile. You cannot plan things in advance and create like very detailed technical designs for that, because stuff's changing, and it's challenging because it's innovative. It's very fulfilling in the end when published. And this is also because it's overall a great experience and a risk, because usually when you talk about AR, VR development, now it's changing, but usually people think about prototyping, about creating showcases, demos, and all sorts of like small customer solutions. And this, we had a challenge, and we still have it, to actually marry two of those concepts, like enterprise business app development and a very extremely on-the-edge innovative AR application. And this experience is also very hard to overappreciate.
Thank you very much, Alex. Yeah, I mean, this was basically an overview of like also our curriculum and of what you will basically learn in our 5 weeks program, basically, where you really create this kind of AR remote support application by yourself when you participate. So the first 2 weeks are basically with Jiva and centered around and focused on design and learning design for augmented reality applications. And then in the other 3 weeks, you basically really go into the development, into Unity, into AR Core and ARKit. And until you have in the end a final graduation pitch with your personal AR remote support project. And this is basically the typical weekly schedule that we are usually planning on. So it doesn't have to be these dates. I mean, it's always like decided on with the group of students, but it could be like this, that basically in the beginning of the week, of course, you have your live lecture, you have your lecture where you can directly ask your questions. Then you can have student co-working sessions on one day, mentorships, like private mentorship sessions on the next day, right before you basically submit your weekly assignments. And we really heavily focus on these weekly assignments, because that's how you learn, and that's how you basically in the end, after the 5 weeks, come up with your own project. And what actually is very special about our masterclass is definitely these mentorship sessions, where you really can ask all the questions you have about development, about like really making your portfolio project perfect. And usually all the students which are coming are really coming from great companies as well. So you don't only network with our teachers and our advisors and our guest lecturers, but also with these students themselves. And of course, in the end, you have this really enterprise level portfolio project, not just some consumer level project, but really like a high level enterprise project. So like in our previous master classes, these were the companies and students that already participated and that gave us actually great reviews. So you're in good company by coming. And like to really like sum up all these benefits from our masterclass, you have these 5 weeks instructions with our really amazing trainers. In the end, you have this Telecom AI remote support portfolio project, which you can use basically to apply for jobs, to propose yourself in your own company, and use for just promoting yourself, of course. Then you have these private weekly mentorship sessions. You really learn everything you need to know to basically be capable to learn to create AR apps by yourself. You do this high level networking. And in the end, you have this industry pitch in front of our advisory board. I will show you our advisory board in a bit. And and you can basically start you're ready to start your career in this really exponentially growing industry. And and what we also are very happy to announce today is that we actually have five sponsorships for 5 students available. I mean, normally it's like $2,000 a course, but if you basically use the time the next 2 days to apply, you are able to basically benefit from the scholarship. I mean, we have 5 seats only, but please feel free to apply. We will send you the application link in the chat. Basically we have like really great reviews for our master classes, and I can see that we actually have some questions. Career assistance. I mean, we do have, the 5 weeks course is paid, as I just said. We have, I mean, not of course forever, but we have some career assistance, of course, after the course. And we have, if there's any questions, please let us know. Also through to Shiva and to Alex directly. Happy to take your questions. Please feel free. And and this, by the way, is our advisory board, and that's basically the people. I mean, of course, not 100% are always attending, but these are the people that you will basically pitch in front of with your personal projects. Normally it's $2,000, but it's I mean, there's 5 spots available if you apply and tell us your motivation and tell us what skills you have, and then it's if you're eligible. I mean, we are telling basically 1 day later if you're basically successful with your application or not. And maybe you can share the application link in the chat. Are there any other? And then we wanted to talk a little bit about how you basically make your portfolio project stand out. Maybe Shiva and Alex, can you talk a little bit about that? Like share a little bit like what basically when you already have some AR projects, like how do you like make that perfect? What do you have to do when you want to basically apply for clients and projects?
Okay, a very good question, Rael. So it's very difficult to find competent AR developers in the job market. I can say this for sure because I've been leading quite a few technical interviews with people. And usually companies, they are forced to just employ people with some kind of Unity experience, so game developers or mobile developers, and like to educate them and to requalify them to being AR/VR developers. And AR/VR developers, they need just not to have technical skills of how to code, but also to have this what was referred to as spatial mindset, right? You need to understand how to position stuff in the world, like that. You have to interact with real objects, and this requires some change and some onboarding and learning curve. So there are, of course, a lot of tutorials on the internet available of how like to deploy our AR app to Unity to your mobile, but it's extremely hard, if not impossible, to find someone with a real experience of creating a real industrial use case. You just won't find that, and this implies a lot of stuff under the hood, right? It implies creating something of value, understanding what are the use cases of AR. It requires some complicated functionality, for example, holographic annotations, and knowing the market of spatial mapping engines and so on, if we're talking about remote support particularly. And if we narrow the question to this course and to the remote support use case, I would say that this is by far the most demanded AR use case on the market right now. And it's more than just an AR app. So if you have an AR remote support prototype in your project, it means that you're perfectly capable of creating all the other or most of the other AR applications and services on your own, and this will be definitely appreciated.
And there's a question actually, how many projects would there be in this program? I mean, there's one which you will create by yourself, right? And can you share more about the type of assignments?
Type of assignments, yeah. So the results of the whole course, of the whole masterclass, will be a working prototype of an AR remote support application. So we'll focus on the AR part, right? Because there is more to that. There is also cloud connections and data streaming and so on. It's just impossible to cover that with this frame, and it has nothing to do with AR actually. So we'll do everything that's connected to AR, like holographic annotation, setting them, creating freehand shape annotations, and all sort of stuff. And all the assignments will actually, this will be, we'll have two. We'll have design assignments and then development assignments, and they will gradually lead you to having a self-developed, fully functional prototype, either for iOS or for Android, depending on what you have.
And will this course teach coding for augmented reality?
Yeah, definitely. That's part of the lectures and the assignments. So you'll need to create the application basically from scratch. Helping will be provided, like some code snippets and stuff will be provided, and technical guidance will be provided too. Yeah.
And are AR designers also hard to find, or just AR engineers? Maybe Shiva, you can answer that.
Absolutely. At least I know the Europe's market is very difficult to find AR designers, or let's say XR designers in general. I was a traditional UX designer, and I'm still a UX generalist, but my experience started with some point cloud experience with a startup in Germany. And then as soon as I showed my CV that I worked with some 3D tools and as well as Unity, I could actually get a job at Dassault Systèmes. It's a big French company, probably you know. So to answer that is very difficult. And to get back to that question about the portfolio and CV, imagine if you have these big names on your CV about the in terms of the tools that you used, giving the fact that with all these new tools for the classic UX or screen design, everything is being automated. So it's worthwhile that designers really move towards the booming technology or immersive technology, so they can find a job as consultants and freelancers in the future. Well, really near future, or even right now. So that helps, actually.
And is it important to have some relative experience in designing?
It is important because I mentioned about the unnormal, for example. I mean, it is fine if you already know what are affordances or feedbacks and stuff like that. But at the same time, they will be narrowed down to some extent in the project as well. So some basic knowledge is appreciated.
Yeah, and also like for those there's no discount code. There's just like when you check the application, there's a question why you are motivated to basically get the sponsorship. Just fill that, and then you will basically 1 day later you will get the answer if you get it or not. So there's no discount code, but there's just like in the application form there is a question about that. Is there any other question we can answer? Or is there something you would like to share, Alex or Shiva, which we maybe didn't cover yet?
I mean, what I can say again and emphasize is for designers, at least is the portfolio is not just about some beautiful images. I know that for analyzing, hiring managers really go deep into your portfolio and see if you really understand the whole process, if you are a good researcher, if you can really think about every aspect of the application. And again, it's very important. And these points are being taught in this deep dive in the project, how to be a UX designer as well as some sort of product owner or product manager at the same time, because you're working for an enterprise product. So
okay, perfect. I mean, maybe like what we can do just to get to know each other a little bit. I'm always love to like get to know actually participants of that and like maybe like get to know you a little bit more in person. Maybe you can like introduce yourself. I mean, I see Nathan, you already have your camera enabled. So please like introduce yourself and what did you think? What is your feedback about this? We are really, please also like write in the chat, what is your feedback about this today's webinar? Is there something missing? Is there something we should change? We should share more content. What should we do? Hi, Nathan.
Yes. Hey, my name is Nathan Nasby, and I'm currently working for remotely from home in Florida for DocuLife Global in Australia. And on the side, I do other things as well, art that kind of plays into my design abilities as well. And I am actually an alum of the Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York. And I graduated actually just recently last year.
Oh, awesome. And we have it's RIT, right? Like VR First. I mean, Extra Bootcamp is basically also connected very closely with VR First, and we actually have an VR First lab in your institution as well. So,
cool.
So you know RIT really, really well. And what do you think? I mean, like is this kind of masterclass interesting to you, or are you interested in learning to create such a portfolio project by yourself?
Yeah, I am interested. And one of the things that I just was thinking about as I was hearing the talk today is how can these principles of AR and XR be incorporated into the education space? Because I know that a lot of classrooms are really struggling with students, especially ones who are more visual learners like myself. You know, there are a lot of students who are struggling with transitioning to the online world, because a lot of it right now hasn't caught up with this new trend, and a lot of it is still either technically based with the a lot of the articles being mostly online and very few interaction sessions are incorporated. So I'm wondering if how these principles that are taught through this course could actually translate to designing like more interactive, more human-centered class sessions, for those who still want to learn that way.
Alex, do you want to?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Nathan. Very good question. So this course is generally an AR course on an example of AR remote support, just because it's convenient, it's based on mobile, and it's a very defined use case. But in general, what will be taught, especially in Sheila's part, with design principles, will be covering AR, a broader scope of AR. And if you're asking how can AR help in the situation of remote learning and e-learning, there are, I think, already bright examples of that. There are several AR, VR collaboration platforms or services like Spatial or Glue or Meet in VR, a number of names. And you see that people are struggling with e-learning, but this is the next step, and this makes actually this struggle irrelevant, because what it does, it simulates a virtual classroom where you wear either a head-mounted display, or you're holding an iPad, or you're using a computer, and you see the 3D space with people represented as 3D avatars and actually moving. And for those for whom devices allow that, you see their hands moving where they're pointing at. You can create virtual whiteboards, and this is the closest as it gets right now to the physical experience, and people use it already for collaboration at work, but it can be very easily used for education. I don't see why not.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, because that's one of the things that I'm looking at right now, spatial thing, which I thank you, by the way, for sharing that with us. You know, definitely this is something that's going to be very important as more and more school systems are transitioning to this new norm and this new reality. There's going to need to be that replacement for the eye contact that we're currently struggling to incorporate right now in a lot of these older solutions, legacy solutions.
By the way, we are also hosting weekly career navigators. And like a few weeks ago, we actually had Tim, he's like also a teacher, and he's teaching actually development in virtual reality. And that may be also be interesting for you to watch, because yeah, he's just like really, he's amazed at how well it's actually working to teach in VR. Yeah, and I can also share that link to you. And I also wanted to introduce to all of you, like my co-founder, Ferhan.
Hi, everyone. I was also watching closely on the backend side, supporting our team. One thing that, Nathan, maybe I can also share, we are now working. I mean, first of all, ARKit AR Core is really the core SDK that you should learn to create an AR-based education app. So
I'll also share that link to you. And I also wanted to introduce to all of you, like my co-founder.
That is also important for us to give this SDK, so you will have this valuable knowledge. And in addition to that, in the upcoming master classes throughout this year, we want to also show, like with a master class format, how to create a VR AR class activity for education. So it will be a separate master class, but whatever you will learn here is actually helpful for the upcoming education focused master classes.
Awesome.
Yeah. And how about someone else? Does someone want to take the opportunity to introduce themselves to us? How about Alex or Elaine? Samuel?
Or anyone who can also open their...
Elaine, hi.
Elaine, hi.
Hi, guys. My name is Elaine Torres. I'm currently a senior UX architect working for Cox Automotive here in Atlanta, Georgia. I come from, I guess, a background kind of centered in design and UX. And my previous employer, I was with 7-Eleven in Texas, and I designed the UX for their augmented reality experiences for the retail platform there. But I never really got into the technical side. We always had a vendor do that for us. And this is kind of for me, or would be kind of like the next step, right? So we've designed the user experience, right? We've designed the how we want the look and feel to be, and how we want the emotions of the customer to be, right? But this class, I think, would be the next step for me to kind of get into the back end and begin to design and create these different customizable experiences for users. And not just in the retail industry, but in the automotive industry. I see a need there, a definitive need for something like this, especially during a time right now where we're all working from home and kind of stuck here, right? There are still ways that we can kind of interact with others, and I really do see value in this course. And that's why I had a lot of questions earlier.
That's great. Actually, Eleni, I have one good news, one bad news for you.
Okay.
the good news is we have this AR program, but we also have a VR training scenario that our partners is actually the ones that is working with directly Volkswagen Group. So we will bring a direct VR training scenario for automotive. But this masterclass, the bad news is the masterclass, that's another masterclass that we are also announcing, but it will start on the 1st of September. So I'm not sure if you can handle both of them at the same time. It is
Probably not.
2 weeks of them will be clashing, but we will, for both classes, don't worry, we have multiple batches. So first of all, you can start from AR, and the VR part, which is directly an automotive training scenario that you are creating afterwards. And you can also take this masterclass in the next batch. So I just want to share with you. We can share more details about that class as well privately to you. Okay?
That's wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. How about you, Patricia? Because you were just commenting. Now it's your turn.
Oh gosh, now I'm called out, and
No one will write anything to chat because of you.
okay, so I'm Pat Thema Andal. I'm a recent graduate. I just got my bachelor's in May from the University of California, Merced, and I have a degree in cognitive science. And I currently work as a freelance UI UX designer, so I am very new to the field. And but I have done personal research where I published a research paper on how VR would affect culture, American culture in particular. So this really interests me. So someday I hope to take that masterclass, but right now I need to figure out like career stuff.
Mm-hmm. We have also like for people who really wants to change their career and start, we will also start full-time programs. But if you are already working, it might not be easy because these programs are 3 months full-time.
Yeah.
And it really requires a lot of commitment. But for master classes, you can still follow, even though you have a study in the morning or working in another company. This is also possible with master classes.
Cool.
How
I just
about-
think it's really exciting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, we really want you to create at least your first or second VR AR project portfolio, because when you look at like the career or personal improvement, this first one is always difficult, right? When you enter a new technology, the first one, if you unlock your skills, the rest will come afterwards. So we really want to help you guys to create your first industry level application or project. So anyone else that would like to share their maybe career goals on VR AR and maybe even use this opportunity to get some a few minutes mentorship for yourself? We already have info sessions, but we can, since we have already very well experienced trainers here.
How about Samuel? Samuel got scared. Okay, how about Sherry? Or Boriana? Okay, yeah.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hi, I'm going to be looking up because I have two monitors, but hello, everybody. I am Chris. I've been doing UX. I'm an independent consultant UX in New York. I've been doing this for, well, I've been in the digital industry for over 20 years. I have backgrounds in business and development before I got into UX. Recently, I had been teaching UX too. Unfortunately, the design program at the school I was teaching closed down, so that's very sad because I was having a lot of fun. But recently, I've been, I had a friend who was working on a virtual reality project with training materials for new employees, stuff like sexual harassment type of documentation that people have to go through, NDAs and things like that. And we were talking and I became very interested. I think we talking about it last year. So busy with projects, busy with the school. So I've just been looking at things little by little. But I find it to be very, very interesting. And I feel like it's definitely the next step of UX. And it's important for, I think, seasoned people like me to get on board with that, make sure that, you know, we're still on top of the industry. I am mostly interested in education and mostly for young children up to high school students, but really for underprivileged children. So I was really thinking more about VR type of instruction or education or something. And reason for underprivileged children is because they are the ones who do not have access to good education or to innovative or, you know, things like that, right? Because we all know the education system is outdated. The traditional education system is very outdated. So so that's why I'm here. I've been exploring. I've been to a couple other webinars that I've seen recently. So I'm happy to see that there's a lot of things coming up now, and there's a lot of people talking about it. Going into these webinars, I am mostly interested in really just discovering the tools that are being used in the industry for these types of projects. I've worked in all kinds of industries, enterprise projects and things like that. So I know the possibilities. I just wanted to understand a little bit more about the process of how to start a project, where we would fit into these projects, right? Because even like just for plain website UX, sometimes I come in the middle of it. Sometimes I come in for research only, or sometimes I come in after the research started already. So just interested to know tools and you know, the steps or the process.
I hope we could answer that.
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned, like Unity, ARKit, ARCore, you will immediately start using it, but you will continue to use it for the next 10 years at least, because we didn't mention so much. There were some quotes that Rahel mentioned, but Apple is preparing their AR device. So it will be like our iPhones and AirPods. It will be as popular as these devices. You know, Apple is easily adopting people, consumers. And Google is also, they also invested, actually acquired a company like a few weeks ago called Northfocals. So everything like the SDK that Alex mentioned, ARKit, ARCore will be their actually core component of the development of these apps. So whatever you learn right now, whatever you learn for mobile app will actually be immediately deployed to these classes. So it will not be a technology or SDK that will like last in the next 1, 2, 3 years. And Unity is also important because it gives you the opportunity to create, right? Create scenes, real-time class activities. So happy to support you on these tools learning.
And there's a question. I mean, Hoops' course is not only designed for designers. No, it's definitely. I mean, it's really designed for you to be able to create by yourself an AI remote support app and to know enterprise level, like industry level, like standards and how to do it, like from project management view, from the implementation view, like for everything. And also like actually like if you just take this 5 weeks course, you actually do need to know beforehand a little bit of coding because it's development heavy. I mean, Alex, you can also tell a few words about it. So the course is really, for on the one hand, of course, designers want to take part and really learn in the 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks about how to do that for actually augmented reality apps, right? And then also get the overview and the insights into how it works with Unity and ARKit. But of course, like, yeah, anyone who already is developer will highly benefit from this because you will like, get to know how to use Unity, how to use ARCore and ARKit.
I mean, at the end, we can say you will have one AR project and you will definitely call yourself AR app, at least mobile AR app prototyper, which includes both design and development aspects.
And also to add something on what Farhan and Rahel already mentioned is that, I mean, I'm actually so excited to see a lot of UX designers here. I am personally coming from the totally different background because I started with humanities and social science and I switched to UX. So this transition for me was really interesting. And also the transition from classic UX to the XR, or let's say spatial design, just to point out some stuff about the UX, because I felt like there was a concern that some of the traditional classic, let's say, screen design fundamentals will be repeated. In order to answer that, I would say no, because at least for the first 2 weeks, the shift from the mental model of because the medium is the mobile, but at the same time you're designing for space. So that shift will be explained. So the mental model needs to be really you need to get rid of that. And the other thing that I really enjoyed hearing was that Elena already mentioned that she wants to really get to the back end, because I always adore the designers that really want to go full stack and get to the back end, because it was also a process for me to learn Unity. And I think it's time for designers not to be scared of the Unity at all, and really make it in a smooth transition from explaining the UI of Unity, because at first it might be a little bit scary for designers, but we'll take care of that too. So I think it will be interesting for both designers and developers.
And it's also slowly becoming a necessity, right, Shiva? So because right now, when designers actually go to this world and start building UI in Unity already, and provide the developers with actually a sample Unity projects with UI inbuilt, this is so obviously preferable to everything else and just to delivering, I don't know, a PSD or graphical assets that the developers should build. And when people see this difference and when see that this is happening, actually, then you have to compete. You have to be on this level too. And this really brings so much to the project, to the collaboration between the development and design, to the overall velocity of the team, of the development, and to the time to market, actually.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I really felt that as I started learning Unity, which is like 2 years now, it really turns a UX design into a rock star within the team, because you're really providing what developers really need. They don't really need to start from scratch making a UI. They will get just a package and they will just do what they want to do, which is coding. So I would say that's a value.
And
Unity supports that from their side. Sorry, Unity supports it from their side. They've made it actually very affordable. I mean, technically for a non-technical person to use all this visual interface and drag and drop logic. And I mean, they're not the first platform to do that, but they're actually one of the most successful to provide a very user-friendly way and for the designers to build the design already there and make it ready for the developers to write their code. So you're going to leverage that.
And what is the pre-required basic knowledge we need to know to start working on AR projects? I mean, I'm not sure, like Samsuva, what you mean by that. I mean, if you want to, because I mean, for the course, like if you mean only for the course, or do you mean in general AR projects? So basically for the course, I mean, yeah, I mean, Alex, you can answer that. How much? I mean, the thing is, like, I mean, if you only take this 5 weeks course, I mean, we will also have like not this time, but next time we will have like an introducers beginners course where you basically like can really, like, if you don't know anything, neither design nor coding, you can take that, and then everything is basically included. For this course, actually, we have a few pre-requirements, and maybe Alex can talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I will answer it in the context of the course, because it's a much broader question. What do you need to do to start working on AR projects in general, right? For the course, I can already say it'll be required to have some basic coding experience. And I see there's a similar question about HTML and CSS. I would mean like functional object-oriented programming, like something like, I don't know, C, C#, Java, JavaScript, Python, something like that. Just to have the basic understanding of what's happening. I mean, the assignments will be provided with a description and with sample code, but you still want to understand what's happening around you, right? And the very, very basic understanding of Unity. So just so that we don't learn how to press buttons or how to build stuff for mobile, right? But you can achieve that by going a couple of Unity tutorials. Yeah, but overall, it's like it's more a beginner level in terms of technical coding competence.
What we can do is for the students who are not sure, please make your application, because we have also a status that we are conditionally accepting you, which means that if you fill the requirements that we are providing to you, like maybe watching a tutorial, or we are providing some documentation that you go over it, or maybe a small assignment, so we can actually make you prepared, because the coding class will start at the beginning of September. So we have still time, even though you start the class. If you have some gaps that you feel not comfortable, we will be happy to enable that by providing necessary prerequisite resources beforehand.
Anyone else wants to ask something or wants to introduce themselves? Otherwise, great. I mean, thanks everyone for being here, attending until the end. And
Yes.
yeah, we hope to see you all in our masterclass.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. If you have any questions, you can always reach us by email. And looking forward to everyone interested in the next masterclass. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.